you for having me here. I've been planning to talk to you about ideas and that keep me up at night and that give me trouble, because I feel this is what we're doing. I studied psychology, so for me this is like group therapy. It's a good thing. I think we need more occasions for people to come together and talk about what they're bothered about and what keeps them awake at night. So I do feel we're doing that today. So thank you to the organizers and to the speakers and to you for participating. And yeah, there are lots of ideas that bother me, of course, but some of them follow me. And this is a way that I use to kind of filter what I should do, because if something bothers me long enough, then I have to act. And well, this is, I think, a decision-making process as well that had helped me personally, but also throughout the work of our non-profit volunteering work that we do. So yeah, it's basically a storm of ideas, and this is how PLAI, the festival, has started. We were so bothered by the fact that young people like us, at least young back then, we're not that young anymore, could not be that negative towards their city, their country, their heritage, and we have to find a way to make them appreciate more what they have around them. Definitely become more proud of themselves as well. And we said, yeah, they have to find a passion. And once they find a passion and they act and they become doers themselves and generate change, they will inspire others to do it, and everyone's happy, problem solved. And yeah, it was bothering enough for us that we started to act, and maybe it sounds logical now, but we were 19 and 20, so it was a big deal. And now the festival is 12 years old, and we passed it on, and I guess that means something. And another idea that kind of followed us ever since 2007 was, yes, AMBASADA. And sorry, I'm rushing because I'm usually not on time. And I talk too much. And yeah, this other idea was that doers, no matter what industry they come from, need to come together more often, share their experience, their know-how, get some basic infrastructure so that their work is more impactful and reach more public, and do more ultimately more good, and the world becomes better. So this is how AMBASADA was formed as well. And it was the belief, and we have this thing in Timisoara, and you might agree with me or not, but we have this thing with our capital. So we just thought, okay, and this is why we have an embassy now of doers, that if we have enough doers that focus only on positive impact, then we don't need to be a capital, we are one. And this is what we try to do and keep on trying to do there as well. And it's hard to describe what I do. I told you I studied psychology, but as a background and let's say job, aside from the regular jobs that I had for companies, I've been called many names and given many titles, and some of them are flattering, some not. I hate the word boss, and lately I've been in that role and I don't really like it, but recently the one that struck me the most and made me think again was coming from an architect, and he said, well, you guys, whatever you did with the festival and with your small interventions around the city, you actually did urban development, and you are the urban regenerators. And that was shocking at first, and I was like, okay, that sounds like massive and complex, and you need a lot of studies for it, and which we don't have. And cities are so complex, and so many people, so diverse, so many issues. But then when I start to think about it, yeah, it's true. We can each be urban regenerator, because it doesn't take much, right? It just takes you to look around, stop for a bit from your rush, and just be aware of what's happening around and see what your community needs, what you need, and then just try to act and maybe just, yeah, I forgot about this one. Just do something small that would benefit others and ultimately just make your life a little better together with your community. So yeah, this kind of should be the role of culture, creative industries. This is another thing that keeps following me this past 2 years. What is the real purpose of what we do? We're doing a festival, we're doing this and that, and why do we do it? Sometimes it feels like our happiness depends on these little colorful things that are all under the name of culture. And for me, culture, just as a definition, and very simple, is just a way of life. Nothing more than that. It's just a sum of maybe customs and beliefs that a group of people at a certain point have and share. And yeah, related to that, I mean, I know there's lots of definition, but I think the classical educational term is just an expression, is just part of it. And of course, part of it is inherited, especially in these customs and beliefs. But the great thing about it is that we can actually shape it, because it is just customs and beliefs of a certain group at a certain point. So there is a lot of free will here as well. So this is something that bothers me now, is how do we use that wisely, that free will? How do we do it with responsibility and with ethics, so that it can benefit others? And yeah, it's that because usually, in terms of beliefs, usually negative things become really very contagious. And for those of you from Timisoara, you probably know a few years back, and one of the reasons why we started PLAI was that everyone was saying nothing ever happens in Timisoara. And then at some point, it turned into, oh, I wish our city could be more like ... Please feel free to fill in whatever city you've been and you had fun. And now, for sure, today, maybe, because we were talking about, I wish it could, there should be more people enjoying this and appreciating all this work. And today it would be, oh, there's so many things happening at once. So there's always something external that happens. And somehow it's so far from the truth. We were always so close to the doers, and we knew there are lots of things happening, even back there in 2006, but there was this strong belief, so people were not even trying to see if it's true or not. We don't try to validate them and to recheck from time to time if this is something that we share. So when we started the festival, I think 9 out of 10 people would tell us why it cannot be done. You're too young, it's too far. It's in a place that people don't even know, a village museum that we have. You cannot do it only with volunteers, it's too expensive, no one would pay a ticket for a festival, and so on and so forth. But the thing is that we focused on the 1 out of 10, and this is how the festival got made in less than 2 months, and yeah, and it keeps on being done. So yeah, imagine if we could just decide to design a culture that would support the impossible or the extraordinary, and how would that be like for us? Because we tend to get so stuck, and usually our negative impressions, oh my God, the time, are so related to the buildings themselves. So it's always about, and there's this circle about home and going to work and going out with friends, and but it's not the places themselves, is how we relate to them really, and how are we in this relationship with them. And there are buildings that have been there ever since we were born. It's maybe a museum or a school, but there's some who have been disappearing, and it's fine with us because we also forgot them. So it's not so much, we don't live in a time of consistency and stability. So I think the way we actually choose to relate can be our legacy to our children, rather than physical things as well. So even AMBASADA is a temporary intervention in an industrial space. We occupy now a former hats factory, this amazing legacy of a brand that used to accessorize royal families, and that was so much part of a culture where it didn't matter how rich or poor you were, but if you had a hat, it was good. And now it was just tossed, well, not now, but a few years back, it was tossed into the, communist heritage type of label, sold for nothing, torn to pieces, and now eventually it's going to be torn down. And that's fine as well, and we knew about it. And it's fine because it's not so much the building, and of course it's really sad that the whole craftsmanship of making hats was torn down together with the business. But it's more, I mean, we have this great certainty that no matter what AMBASADA is, the values and what matters more is that this exercise of coming together, people sharing experiences, know-how, put together resources, this will go on no matter where the space is. And what I think is most important is that even if AMBASADA is not going to be alive, something else will start up and this idea will multiply. And I think this is the key, and we're somehow in search of happiness. Oh my God, I'm going to speed through this. Through everything that we do, and it's such a core and important part of our lives. And it was studied a lot, and by Gary Becker and Luis Rayo as well in 2007. This is an equation of the evolutionary efficiency and happiness. It sounds scary, I know, but basically regarding consumerism that Alex was mentioning as well, it just says we're doomed. I mean, no matter how many things we get, we always want bigger and better. And the soon that we have them, we're very unhappy because we start comparing it with something else. So rather, I was just thinking about it, like, rather than focusing on that and just projects, why can we toss it around and change it? And I think culture and creative industries and arts in general, but the whole creative industries, and for me that means a lot of industry, because any industry that is socially responsible and comes up with creative solutions to actual issues and struggles, I think should be part of this creative industry segment. Can do, and art is far beyond being just beautiful and just presenting, and it stirs just dialogues, and it talks about people and issues, and maybe sometimes it's even grotesque, and it's about us and coming together and seeing what's wrong in the world. And I think this is what the purpose of creative industry should be, is to move this mentality from us being consumers of goods and just objects and basic needs to actually be consumers of solutions and ask for solutions from whatever provider we have around. And I think in this way, there's not going to be that much burden on culture itself to solve every issue, even urban regeneration. So rather than having culture responsible for that, I think we should all be responsible to have urban regeneration as well as other issues part of our culture. And this aim of just making our lives a little better. Thank you. And I'm 50 seconds.